Okay, so it's been a while. We have not sat in these chairs for going on 8 months. This room collected a little dust. We had to do a little bit of deep cleaning, or the best that we could. We did, which I'm most excited about, do some updating, a little revamp with our space. I don't know why I'm always like that with anything that I do. I don't know, I guess it's normal or just my creative energy coming out. But like if I'm gonna start something new or get into something, I have to like make it mine first. Like it has to feel good, like the space.
I'm like that with outfits. I'm like, I want a new outfit if I'm like going somewhere
Yeah.
because you just feel. So I wonder what that is. So it's like, change is hard for people, but when you get something new,
Yeah.
you embrace.
Probably because you can fully like control it. Like the change that's hard for people is the ones that we can't control. That's a topic for another time. So, I mean, how have these last 8 months been? Let's just, I don't know, think about that. I think there's been so much going on. For those of you who don't know, I am now 8 months postpartum. We were just talking about how, there's three, by the time this episode comes out, there will probably be three new grandbabies in the family for my mom. So a lot has been changing. A lot has been happening. Yeah. In a conversation I feel like I've been having a lot, and we were just talking about this the other day, and I told you how I've had this conversation with a few people lately, is just, and you said I always tell you this, which I don't even remember like telling you this, but just how two things can exist at the same time. Two things can always exist. Two perspectives, two opinions, whatever it is. Two things can exist at the same time. And just with all of the changes that have been happening the last 8 months, and just kind of reflecting back on like even where we were 8 months ago to where we are now, and thinking about the things that have changed, something that I've kind of been feeling is the energy of gratitude, like deep gratitude, but also the energy of grief. And I feel like it's really interesting, and it at least surprised me, because you usually, when you hear the word grief, you think of, to me anyways, and especially with the work that we do as mediums, like you think of it being just when you lose a loved one on the other side. And I feel like, especially over these last few months, what I've realized, and kind of what we've even talked about over the last few weeks, is that grief is just going to show up time and time again in so many different areas, so many different parts of your life. And it's not just connected to when you lose a loved one. It happens every big shift, every big transformation, every ending, every new beginning. Like for me, and becoming a new mom, I feel like I didn't realize enough, and no one really ever talked about grief in motherhood, and how you can love something so much, and you can love your new life and what's been created like so much, so deeply, but also at the same time like have these moments of like grief for parts of what used to be, or parts of what can't happen anymore, or just like parts of my old life. And even then the guilt that comes up, like even thinking about that, or having guilt because you love this thing in this new part of your life or this new chapter so much. So I feel like some of the things that I've noticed that I have been having grief within my old life, I don't know, it's just the usual things. I feel like this was the conversation that I had a few times over the last couple of weeks with a couple different people, was that when I became a mom, I said it was like joining a club that I did not know existed. And how you think you can understand moms and motherhood from wherever you're at and from the outside point of view, and how you can think you can empathize with them, but you literally have no clue what it's like until you're living it. But that made me realize even in every other area of life, like you can think that you can understand somebody so much, but you never realize that it's really like you can, you know, the saying, and I say this with clients all the time, like people can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves, which I feel like is so true, because even in this instance, and like understanding and empathy with motherhood, with just anything, grief, any other area, like you can try your best to the degree that you can to understand someone, but if you haven't lived through it, I just like motherhood is what made me realize I feel like it's a totally different level of understanding when you've lived through the same thing as somebody. Like,
Yeah,
and it,
for me, it reminds me of when I was cutting someone's hair years ago, and they lost their brother, and I'll never forget it. They lost their brother, and I had a lot of sympathy and, you know, compassion for my client, and we talked and everything. But in my head, I was like, well, at least it wasn't your mom. Like, I remember literally thinking that, like, that's terrible you lost your brother, but at least you know. And then fast forward, when I lost my brother, I was like, it was crazy. The feeling of like, I was like, you know, I was brought back to that moment, like, oh, it was just her brother. And I was like, oh my God, the loss of my brother had me in bed for a while, like in deep, deep grief and depression. So,
but that's what's so interesting, and it made me really be able to like almost get out of my head. I don't know if it's maybe ego a little bit to for me to want to think that I understand certain things when that I haven't lived through as much as someone who has lived through it. So it just helps me really like take a step back and just have even a deeper level of like empathy and just for me in motherhood. Like I really thought like even with you your whole life and the things you would say to us and even just like how hard things can be sometimes, and you're like, okay, yeah, I get it, I can see how that can be hard, but when you live through it, it's just a really really different experience. And so that just brings me to what we were thinking about earlier of like with the grief of just changes in life, different seasons, different chapters, beginnings, endings, having recognizing, being okay with the fact that gratitude and grief can exist at the same time. And that's the hardest thing. And the thing that I'm learning is that not only can both exist, but I don't have to feel guilty for the part of me that does miss like old parts or old things I used to do or old just parts of my old life. And guilt, you were just yelling at me in the car the other day about about guilt, just the word guilt, because I've been saying that a lot lately. Just that I feel guilty for this, I feel guilty for that, and I think it's connected to like my energy and like time and where I'm splitting my time in my life and feeling like I don't have enough of it or enough of the energy to go here and there and be 100% in 100% of the areas of my life.
And I think that's where I always say that I'm flexible, and sometimes both things can exist. I could show up as feeling like a doormat at times, but the part that I'm flexible is because I think over a lot of change and experiences in my life, I come to the present moment a lot quicker. So that's what I feel like my flexibility, like, okay, I'm in Kaylie's car now. This is what we're doing. So I'm in the car. I'm playing with the baby. I'm here. I'm not thinking about everything at home that I have to do.
Yeah.
Where when I'm with you, I was just telling someone yesterday when I got out of your car, I was like, but I said, but sometimes I could feel it so much because I don't do that anymore, but I could appreciate it. I could have empathy for it because I was like that.
Yeah.
But it's so hard for me to be in that space sometimes because, but it is so that flexible. I'm just putting that together now. Really, that's what I've learned to do, jump in the present moment quicker.
And even like yesterday while I was getting ready to just do whatever I needed to get done, and I was rushing, and I literally felt it. I made a video about it that's going to come out too, but I was rushing and I felt it in my body, in my chest. I was taking short breaths, and all I literally kept telling myself was like, just breathe. like everything's okay in this moment, and just little affirmations that I kept telling myself to
And
try to
that's
keep
actually
myself
where
in
the
present
magic
moment.
is. That is what, because I was just telling you in the car the other day.
Yeah.
Wayne Dyer, change your thoughts, change your life. Like that's where, I would listen to it on repeat, literally, when I was getting ready for work for years. And it's because I had such a hard time letting go of control or being in anxiety that I had to catch my thoughts and then not just catch them, but then like, why is that popping up? Why am I feeling that? And that takes time to rewire your brain like that. So, but we just had a recent situation with our dog, Apollo, that again, I was seeing things so clearly because it's Kaylee's baby and he's having some issues. We're not quite sure yet. But so far we think it's a bad ear infection. So we're giving him care and hopeful. But when she came over, she was talking to my niece, like, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? And I just watched her, and Apollo was literally looking in her eyes and kept clawing her. I'm like, Kaylie, just look at him. He just wants you to love him right now. He just wants you to be with him right now. Like, don't worry about fixing him. Just be here. But I could see that sometimes so clearly, like I said, because it came over time of,
well, and even what I was thinking, because I remember that moment too, because I had realized that I was asking so many questions, trying to understand, and I almost said it out loud in that moment, was that when I start to feel something like that, like uncertainty, scared, fear, grief about something that I don't even know what's going on yet, I just run to trying to understand it, because I feel like if I can understand it, then it feels like I have more control.
And wouldn't you say part of you also is thinking the worst?
I think I was trying not to let my mind go there. So that's why I wanted to know.
Because of the worst. Yeah. But it's because of that possibility. But
right.
Again, even if you're faced with the worst, what do you have? You have the present time.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, you could sit in guilt if you're faced with the worst.
Yeah.
And then you're not in the present time. And then you're missing all the time. Like your mind could go back to things like at different parts, which it will, because that's how our brain is wired.
Yeah.
But that's why keeping it as simple as you can to come back here.
It's so funny because even when you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, like it's true. Like you're right. But I also feel like I'm not even there yet, and I wasn't there in that moment. But even now, I'm like, part of me is like, I don't even care about that. I don't care about being like, I'm stuck on wanting to figure it out, wanting to understand it.
Yeah,
being angry, it'd be like all of these things. So, but that's why I feel like it's good that we have both of these, because I feel like people listening need to hear that, but then also hear it's okay if you don't want to hear that, because sometimes you also just want to be stuck in your stuff and you just want to let it happen and let it unfold, let yourself be angry or scared, or let yourself try to figure things out. Because so me running to asking, all these questions and trying to understand it and figure it out was the part of me, like I said, that was trying to find control in a very uncertain situation. But it was also a part of me that was protecting myself from feeling the things in the present moment. Like I was avoiding the present moment actively.
Yeah, and I'm thinking back to the years when I started listening to Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, and I don't think I necessarily always loved. That's why I listened to it like 1,000 times, what I was hearing. But I knew that was my way through. Like I knew. So I guess when you have a handle, or when you understand yourself, like you're saying, oh, this anxiety or this control helps. When you have an understanding, and if you're looking for a shift, or if you're looking for more peace or balance in that, then you would welcome it all. Like when you're, you know what I mean? Like when you go higher from the situation, when you pull yourself out of the situation and you assess all of it, then you could take in what someone else opposite is saying because I agree too. You have to feel your feelings. You have to be where you're at. You don't want to like bypass any of that, but you also don't want to miss the present moment. Like I guess I just always, I would have more anxiety around that. Not always, because I've been in a ton of anxiety lately and other things going on in my personal life that has really taken a toll on everything I've learned, I feel like, but I keep trying to come back.
Yeah. And that's where it just brings me back to, like, even with this situation with our dog, which I didn't even think we were going to talk about this, but all I kept thinking, or even just the last few days and on my own time and when I'm back home away from him, I feel myself living in both gratitude and grief. Not even grief because he's still here and things are probably going to be fine, but grief of, like, the things that I should have done, the things that I could have done, what I could have done differently, like all of these things. But then also being so grateful for him, his energy, what he brought for the time in my life, like all of these things. And I feel like at the end of the day, and what it comes down to is, like, letting go of the judgment. Like, I feel like the fact that gratitude and grief existing equally, like at the same time, is something that everybody can relate to. I think where people get tripped up, like me in this situation, because it literally was a situation too with him, but even within motherhood in other areas, is the judgment that I put on myself, the judgment that you put on yourself, like what you're making something mean. So me having guilt about missing my old life within motherhood is me judging myself about the type of mom I am. Like, how could I even think about my old life when I have everything right here? There's something about, like, having grief, like getting everything you wanted, everything being how you want, but still having grief surrounding it, or surrounding aspects of it, and then you judge yourself for it, and that's what makes it feel hard. That's what makes you feel stuck. It's not the situation itself.
But that, again, I'll say Wayne Dyer, that's where the daily work comes.
Yeah.
And I was never a big affirmation person, really, but I am learning to embrace it more. Like, I did it for a period, but I'm learning to embrace it more because we are always thinking something. We are always literally thinking something. So why not put a good affirmation in there from time to time, and, like,
But that's where the real healing happens. And I, like I said, it's so funny because I talk about this in the video that I just made the other day to post, but the healing happens in the moment when you're stuck in the pattern, when you're angry, when you're upset, when you're feeling all these things, when whatever it is, as soon as you recognize the pattern, like, that's when you have the choice for the healing to begin. That's when you have the choice.
And that's in the present.
Well, that's what I was going to say, to choose to think a different thought, or to shift to your mindset, or whatever it is. But yeah, it happens in the present moment. And that's where you can, like I was saying, like, have the choice to give yourself grace instead of judging yourself in this moment. Because I feel like the judgment that we place on ourselves about our lives, or about how things should be, or how we should have acted, or whatever it is, like, that's what makes things feel hard. I almost feel like half the time it's not the situation itself at hand, it's what we're making the situation mean. And I feel like you just told me a story about that too, about just how, like, every situation, we give the meaning to the situations that happen in our life. And when we can see that's what we have control over, even if we don't have control over the situation, we can have control over what it's meaning to us. It can help us.
I had a client, and I'll just, like, kind of go over it and see what you think about that. But this is the story I told you. A client had, her loved one had a animal visiting her every day for 2 weeks, like, was on her porch, caught by the Ring camera. And my client's daughter passed away. So it was her daughter that had this on her Ring camera. And so now this animal, my client, doesn't want nothing to do with it. And she says, now I think it's a bad omen. It's a bad omen. And I got that from you many years of you telling me nothing has meaning unless the meaning you put on it. So I shared that with her in other stories. But like, how would you react to something like that about this animal? Because I said, it's okay. She doesn't have to have nothing to do with it for a while. Like, you can do whatever you want, but it also can be a hello from her daughter now. And it also can be like two things can exist. And
yeah. And I think even bringing that perspective to the situation shows that like things, I think it'll probably stay in the back of her mind so that when she's ready, like that it'll be able to turn into that. And that just brings me back to like what we're just saying, how I was still stuck in the anger or the whatever, the grief, and you were saying the present moment. It's like they both are existing at the same time. We're gonna say that 100 times this episode.
Signs and symbols change. Like they have
Yeah.
different meanings too, because when you're intuitive or when you're in tune with the present moment and with the awareness, then it doesn't always have to mean something negative or bad, because crows have a bad symbol. People think, oh my God, this means death. This means that. And I was like, oh, when a crow started coming to me, it was like something good. So yeah. I would so I think it goes back to that. Which way are you going to think? Higher or lower? Like fear or love? And when you are trying to understand the present moment, you have to have an openness to how is this feeling? Like it, and it could feel different. The same symbol could feel different the next day.
And that's where I feel like just bringing it back to like gratitude and grief and even like motherhood, like what you were just saying, how that relates is kind of like the aspect I was talking about with the judgment that you put on the situation. If you can give yourself grace, if you can give the present moment grace and allow yourself to understand that things are always shifting and things are always changing, that something can mean one thing to you one day, and then the next day or a week later or 2 years later, you can allow it to mean something different, because that's how energy flows. Things are always shifting, things are always changing, and the more that we can allow ourselves to stay present, to go with the flow, even like go with the flow of our emotions, like allowing yourself to feel grief, allowing yourself to feel anger, upset, judgment, whatever it is, knowing that you can feel it fully because you're not going to feel it forever. And in knowing that and having that belief, like, okay, I'll give myself this moment, it lets it pass. And then it might allow you to step sooner into the gratitude for the things, like, I'll just bring it back to the aspects of your new life, like for motherhood, just the unconditional love that I feel, how much new experiences that we're having and creating. Like, I literally always talk to my partner about with motherhood. I was like, don't you think our life would be so boring, like without without our daughter here? Like, what did we ever do before? Because now it's like our whole life. And so it's just funny to think about, whereas like there's always two sides. It's like I can think about that, I can let myself be in that gratitude and that love, but there's also going to come a time where I'm going to miss the freedom of being able to do whatever I wanted when I wanted, or going on trips or traveling, or dangerous hikes that I used to love to do that I have to think about a little differently now. It's like just, yeah, always bringing it back to like things are always shifting, and that's okay. The part that makes it not feel like it's not okay is us trying to grasp or hold on to it, or get stuck in it, maybe trying to understand it, or judging ourselves when it comes up, like I was saying, because we feel like we shouldn't feel.
So when you have that thought of thinking pre-baby, or aspects of your life that were different, or maybe even you missed a little, it's just recognizing that and bringing it here to the present moment and seeing what you can do. You know, if it was a hike, hey, can get a babysitter for a few hours and go do like a hike you feel comfortable with or whatever, but make it happen. It's because I think as mothers, sometimes we don't make those things happen until all our children are grown, and then you're left with like, oh, I don't really want to do that anymore. But keeping that part of you that you enjoyed and liked to the present moment, and making it happen. And it's not going to look the way it used to, but it could look very close and make it happen.
I read something, I don't remember where, but it was, and it just reminded me of what you just said, and it was about like motherhood and having a baby, and how your baby doesn't just deserve a parent who does give them, your full attention and takes care of their needs and whatever it is. Your baby also deserves a parent who is themselves, who has their personality, who
and I think that's what's beautiful about me and you, because the situation I'm in now, there's a lot of aspects of myself that you don't even know me, but pre-kids, because you were one of my kids.
Yeah.
And I have lost it.
Yeah.
So now it's like I'm waking up, I'm like, but I don't want to go out and I don't want to do this. Like, I don't want to do anything but be with these kids. But it's interesting. So you have that perspective to be able to watch me and see how that's going to unfold. But at the same time, make changes or incorporate some things that maybe I wish I would have held on to.
Yeah, and that's where I think the beliefs and the judgment come in, because I think it's something that so many people can relate to, is especially in motherhood, but even just in like big transformations in life, of feeling like you've lost a part of yourself or a part of who you were, whether that's in motherhood or whether it's the loss of a loved one, someone that was very close to you, and feeling like you lost that part of yourself with them, or like I said, an ending, like a chapter ending, anything. So it's like that longing for parts of yourself that you were is something that a lot of people can relate to. And it's something to keep in
crisis. Like, there's a lot of people that really go through midlife crises. And if you can be aware of it, and again, you don't have to go buy a car. I guess you could, but the big things you hear, I had to go buy a car or whatever. But incorporating some of that, like, I think we were together when I saw those, I don't know, slingshot cars, and it's no big deal, but it looks like a big go-kart, and I'm like, we should rent that. I even Googled it. It's like $300 a day. I'm not a fast, let's go get crazy kind of person anymore, but I suppose I was at some time.
Yeah.
But I think that would be cool. So you don't have to go buy the car, but maybe you rent it for the day. And like, so it's like getting a hold on, like, not like, oh, that's when I was younger, but if it's something that you want to do,
And that's what I feel like, that's what this life is about, when they say, like, well, who are you? Discover what you like to do. Some of it is going back to the things that you used to like to do, or just trying it out again and realizing.
I think, to your point, sorry, not to cut you off, but I forgot what I was going to say. We hold on to the guilt or the resentment that was taken away from me because I had a baby, because this happened, even though we love that. So because of the guilt and the resentment, it tends to keep us not thinking about that, which are aspects of ourselves that we want to bring in that are still part of ourselves.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, that can keep you stuck in feeling bad for yourself in a way, without, it almost like keeps you out of your power and keeps you, like, stops you from recognizing the power in your choices in this moment, to be able to see how you can bring some of that back into your life.
And also renting that slingshot as the example, like, it might be a one and done. Like, it might be like, okay, I don't really like going that fast, or maybe this happened now, but it was cool that I tried it. So it's like, it's trial and error also, well, like, that's uncovering
That's
yourself.
What I was gonna say was, like, that's what we have now, is the opportunity to, like, when I said it's about, like, they say, like, figure out who you are, who you want to be, what do you like, in that way you're not going to know if you don't try it. And so you can try new things, and you can try bringing back things from your old life, or just things that you long for, things that you used to miss about yourself, and try it again. Because sometimes I almost feel like, too, we get stuck in the idea of what things would be like, or the idea of what things used to feel like, and if we were to try it again, like, we are a whole different person now. And so if we were tried to bring that old Kaylee back to now, it might not even resonate with me or make me feel the way that it used to, or do whatever it did, because I'm not that person. I grew in so many different ways. And so it's almost like if we don't bring it back and we keep ourselves longing, we're almost doing ourselves like a disservice, because we're keeping us stuck in that energy of grief. Whereas if we can see our power in trying to bring it back, and we do that, and we see if it fits with us now, if it fits with who we are now, then, like, we'll feel more connected, or we'll be like, wow, now I can finally let that go, because I don't resonate with that anymore. I don't like it, or whatever.
That's why I think it's very important to, like you keep saying, two things can exist in the same space. See someone in their grief, witness it, acknowledge it, and then offer a new perspective, inspiration to help them with that. So
yeah, and I think so the biggest thing over the last 8 months that I've recognized is that grief is not just when you lose a loved one. It happens in so many areas of life, in loss and death, and in new beginnings, in motherhood, in relationships, and so many different things. And a lot of the time, how to get through it is kind of like you were saying, is you have to be seen in it first. Most importantly, by yourself. I mean, we can't control if other people will see you in it, but if you can see yourself for where you're at, and, like I was saying, release that judgment that you might have on the things that you're feeling, then on the grief, on whatever's coming up in this transformation. If we can release that, and then it almost makes space. When we release the judgment, like you were saying, it does make space for a new perspective to be able to live. But of course, that's only going to happen when it happens. Like, there's no timeline to say when that's going to happen. It could take a minute. It could take 5 days. It could take 5 years for someone to be able to get to that, to make space for that new perspective. But if we can just remember to stay open and knowing, like, that time will come, and allow that new perspective to come when it comes, it makes it easier, I feel like, to move through the grief or whatever you're feeling, like right now. So all right, well, how should we close this? We are going to hopefully get back to doing it every 2 weeks. We were doing the podcast every 2 weeks. I know you guys should have heard Carol over the last 8 months, because every other week was, can we record the podcast yet? Can we record the podcast? Can we get back in the room? And it was me. It was my fault. I just wasn't ready yet. There was too much going on. Anyways, we're hoping to get back to it, and just like sitting down and unraveling a lot of things. I think this was a really great conversation. I think it also helps us work through certain stuff within our own stuff. But
as always, yeah.
Until next time.